safety/city hall improvement project. We're scoping out right now. We have some folks in from Marcus Construction to walk us through some additional findings that they've compiled for us since the last time we met. And specifically looking at some schematic designs, reviewing some HVAC reports, and discussing desired interior finishes. So go ahead and introduce yourselves and we'll get rolling.
Hi, Mayor, Council Member. Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and work on this project with you. Thanks for giving us a chance to introduce ourselves. Last time we got working right away, kind of skipped right through that. So here to represent Marcus is myself, Cody Blevins, be the lead architect on the project. We have Lane Kleist, who's our principal architect at Marcus Construction, and then CJ Sanger, who is going to be the project manager on this project. I'll be taking care of you guys. So to walk through the plans, largely they're the same as the last set we did review. However, we did make some changes to the city hall space, where we took out kind of the existing center copy print area that exists and just reworked the space to have perimeter offices all the way around. And then to accommodate your restroom renovation here, we did resituate this storage just slightly, but largely still works the same way, and then reconfigured how those two reception areas are going to work to differentiate between the city reception and then that police reception. I have been working with the chief of police and the sergeant to kind of accommodate their needs on the police side as well. So as we get further planned south, you notice that the police addition, although the footprint stayed the same, we arranged those spaces in there a little bit differently. So they have some cubicles now rather than the closed offices. We moved one of those offices up to this area, as well as their interview space is in the existing city hall, part of that renovation. And then as we get down into the garage, or the addition area, excuse me, we reworked the garage area a little bit and kind of flipped these shared spaces that we had, the community and the utility space. Those were some conversations that Elizabeth and I had, and we're working through the week, largely due to the need, just based on the size and the occupants you're going to have in this new facility, to accommodate those 6 toilet fixtures that we need, and then how that space can kind of be most functional for you all. So I also took into account relocating the existing washer and dryer that you have in your existing fire engine. We're going to relocate those existing pieces of equipment to this utility room down here. We have relocated the new commercial washer and dryer for the fire hall down here as well. So separating some of that stuff, and then taking what we had as a really nice big flexible community space and just kind of putting that in the existing fire community space as it is now, because that space really does work well for them. And it's a good chunk of area that already exists. So we're able to remove some walls that way and really open up the space for you, make it a little bit more flexible between these two areas. And then kind of resituated the police lockers just to help that area flow a little bit better and service their needs with the 2 separate lockers and just how it fits into their police and storage area. So those are the biggest changes we have for you. I won't bore you with a lot of talk. We can kind of get into working right away. One of the bigger additions, or the only addition since the last scheme now, is we've gone a little bit further into the code review of this project. Again, that's making sure that we have the right toilet fixture count for you. So that's all verified and is accurate on here. We do feel that the best scenario for you all is to actually fire suppress the entire new and the existing portions of it. The reason we feel that way is just based on the amount of area that you want to add, the people that are going to be in the building, and then the construction of your existing building, because it's got those wood trusses on it. It's an area and sort of a math game in the code book. It works out a lot simpler for us, and it's much less restrictive to suppress the existing and the new portions of that as well. Given that change, we are able to suit or fit all of your needs, all of the requests into this footprint at this current scale as it's drawn.
Any comments or questions? for the design team.
Did we address the space challenges we were gonna have with the fire department and their training in the community area, I guess?
Yeah, we got into that a little bit last time. Currently that community area is sized to accommodate 36 people at once. I know that there was talks about potentially needing a little bit more space, just given sort of the constraints that we're in right now, that's really as large as we feel we can make that space. If there is,
No longer need a closet.
okay,
Sorry, we can delete the closet.
that is sized in factoring in the closet into that as well. So you have still 36 people in there. In the event that you need a space for more people, we see that being something where you can utilize that back end of your new fire hall or the new engine room, because it is oversized to accommodate the new trucks in there and then some additional storage in the back. So that was kind of our thinking in that area.
Makes sense.
Yeah, did you see they put the current meeting room stays? Instead of putting the utility and everything in there, they moved it to the south, to that 20 by 20 area that was originally gonna be a meeting room.
Sure. I mean, it looks like they moved your desk to a different area.
That worked better, actually.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What are the accesses to the kitchenette?
Really,
City staff.
it exists a lot of the way it does now, through, it's that door right.
To this
Yeah,
room?
it's that door right now. You could either access that through the chamber or in the,
They can be buzzed through the police.
yeah, so you can either go through the chamber to that kitchenette. If you're in that police side, I apologize, looks like it died here. If you follow my cursor this way and you are in this area, which is a secured area, you have to be buzzed in. You can get to that kitchenette from this police side as well. But if you're in this chambers area here, you walk through this door and then immediately another door into that kitchenette.
You have to get buzzed in from the chambers area into the,
Not currently, we don't have it planned that way.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of tough to see there, but right below is, yeah, right in that circle there, that's what we're calling the secure door. So somebody from the chambers would not be able to
All right,
go
I see it.
from the chambers into the police hall.
correct.
I mean, that's kind of tough to read up there.
I noticed in the plans, we got a lot of new AC and gas furnace going in. Is that rooftop units or something?
Those are primarily wall mounted units.
Wall mounting units. So I was, we don't currently have gas pipe to this building. And I don't know if I want to bring it in, and we are.
Gas meter right
Do we?
on this side, yeah. We
Okay.
do have a gas just right there.
We have anything hooked up to it?
No, but we do have gas to
You
the
have
building.
gas, okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we are electric utility as well. And then leveraging some of the new programs like the 179D tax stuff that you can use on government buildings now in the Inflation Reduction Act monies. We could buy like heat exchangers instead that would do the cooling and heating at least down to a certain degree, and then we could have electric backup. I would like to look at that and then leveraging the federal dollars that are available to help subsidize those. Should be a minimum of 30%.
We were able to field that question a little bit this morning. We had kind of got some comments from Elizabeth, and we did reach out to our mechanical engineer who put this plan together you're looking at. And he said, if we were to change all those units out, it'd be about a $15,000 ad throughout. And that's an upfront cost. So that's not factoring your credits or the savings
Okay.
in energy, but upfront. about
Yeah, so there'd be a
15,000.
little bit upfront, and then there's an additional, so that would be for the 3 units. To get the auxiliary heat and the 3 units. And then there was also, of course, be added electrical cost for electrical auxiliary heater, so that we didn't have, don't know the exact price on the additional electrical. Components, I guess, at this point, but
Yeah.
if it's something you'd like us to explore, we certainly can.
I'd really like to look at it because then that sets us up for a future project of putting in solar, and we could basically, remove a huge amount of the operating costs for the heating and cooling in the building that way. And I know that the heat pump technology is coming on strong right now. And hopefully we could find something that fits the bill for us.
Do you know if, and right, this is kind of like tax credit driven, do you know if it's strictly solar panel? Can it be photovoltaic panel? Is there some leniency in the alternative means that you get that energy?
What's the question?
So like, you're talking a solar panel, like flat panels, sun coming in.
Yeah.
And you get solar energy, or you bank on those batteries. Do you know if like a photovoltaic system qualifies for those same kind of rebates?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I know I build some of those at work, so I can fill you in more detail.
Isn't section 179 a income tax code provision
It
item
is,
though?
but with the Inflation Reduction Act passing, there's a clause in there, and I was just learning about it this afternoon, sent you a video link.
Yep.
Basically, it goes, it's
I
like,
haven't watched the video yet.
Yeah,
I apologize.
so this is real limited information, but it's the tax credit would go to you guys and you guys would pass that back to us,
Okay.
is how that would work. And it's
We need more
specifically
research.
for, so government buildings can utilize that pot of money.
And is that 179 or that's separate?
179D.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an interesting route to explore.
Yeah, and there's like LED lighting and there's, there's rules in there,
Mhm.
how to qualify, but I think we need to explore that and understand that before we pass on it.
Yeah, if it's gonna give us the best chance to make a smart decision, absolutely.
Right, and like I said, again, down the road, 2 years, we get a handle on what our energy use is, and then we can design a solar system to offset, say, 80% of that.
Right. And learning the information would also assist Marcus in helping your other customers, so. Thanks for that.
And the solar portion of that would be future.
That'd be future,
That
yeah.
would be part of
We
this
won't,
project.
I'm not this
Okay.
time.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Currently still have to pay for the electricity, whether it's solar or not, so.
Any other question or comment about the floor plan here?
I mean, I got two requests. I'm gonna step up there.
Perfect.
And, would it be possible to get a door here?
Going out this way?
Nope, going into this bay here to get to access this. 'Cause that'll be
Through
our
here-
main
through
entrance
here
for
you're
people to
asking?
come. Yeah.
No, there's, you
It's not
got,
wide enough.
no access or no room for other doors along this wall. Fortunately.
We could put one on the, well, there is one in that sidewall there.
Because that's gonna be like the main entrance for people that come to the fire hall.
Mhm.
We're not gonna go all the way through city office, so.
Yes,
Correct.
If there
we're
was-
fighting with those property lines.
That,
over there.
that door?
Yeah, if we go
Yeah.
to our site plan here, this is kind of where that door shakes out. So, yeah, we're just fighting, fitting those two 14-foot
Okay.
wide doors in there.
Yep.
And that man door, so.
Okay, that would be just a request, that's if you could slide the doors over a little bit. I don't know how far from the east line there is.
These ones here, you're saying slide them
Yeah.
over?
But there's not much room there.
No, how we have it figured out, the room that we need to accommodate those concrete aprons and the overhead doors, typically that's about as tight as we like to get it.
That's what I thought the answer was gonna be, but I had to ask. And then, what was my other one here, it was, okay, there is a door going into the kitchenette, right, from the fire hall?
This way, here?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
That's
it.
correct.
Is that, I haven't seen that drawing yet. But anyway.
That's like from here to here.
Yep, it's basically that door, that location itself wouldn't change. I think we flip the swing on the door. And
Okay.
then the walls of this room would change to accommodate this hallway here.
Are you looking for a door that separates the community space from the kitchen?
Cause we could absolutely put a door
Okay.
here if you
No,
want.
you don't need to, I just, when I was looking at the plan, I thought there was some lines missing, so it's just, I had to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if we could do like a double door here, because if we have carts or something you need to take in,
Certainly.
that's it. But no,
Also, as is, there's no wall between the kitchenette and the communities area, huh?
That's correct. And that's, I believe how it is now. So we kind of figured, assume
A
less,
door that way.
okay. We left it open for now. It's not a big deal to add a door there.
The only thing I would say is if there is a door there, but if you guys are doing excellent insulation, then it's less of a concern. But if sometimes there are meetings that are happening in the chambers and in the community space at the same time.
At all of the interior walls, with exception to the ones surrounding like the mechanical room.
Yeah.
I have sound acoustical bats.
Great.
Inside of there, so it's gonna have the best sound dampening qualities for you.
What about building envelope insulation? For
Building
heating?
envelope, right now, we've got it's I forget exactly how we broke it out, but between I think we have an R20 continuous, or excuse me, R20 bat in between the studs, and then like a 3.8 continuous rigid on the outside. So it runs, in parallel with your minimum energy efficient energy standards at this point. It's not abundant to any means. But we're in compliance right now between the bat in cavity and then a rigid system beyond that.
Do you think it's worthwhile beefing up the insulation?
Well, you're asking an architect now, so I'm gonna tell you absolutely. Your best bang for your buck is gonna be make it as insulated as you can, right? You wanna have the best down jacket you can in the winter too. Cause what you're doing, a large portion of the cost in this project, any way you slice it, is gonna be that mechanical component to it, right? So that's your biggest investment. I would say absolutely, you want to protect that investment as much as you can. You want to put a really good thermal system around it. Now, I have to back that up a little bit, right? Because my project managers and my estimators are going to say, we got to spread the monies out a little bit through the project. If you want the total breadth of what you're seeing in front of you, some of those things, something's got to give in there somewhere.
Unless you're willing to give more to meet that.
Well, and if you could calculate that your operating costs are gonna be lower because you've used
Yeah.
more insulation, then that frees money up in the budget.
Certainly.
I don't know if you can calculate that, how well that can be calculated or how accurately, but
Well, this is a pretty unique situation we're in, right? There's a lot of systems that play into each other. If you had some historical data on your cost to run this building, that might be something we could get closer to, but it would certainly be, an educated guess. It'd be a simulation based, more so than evidence based at this point.
do we have,
We can
Access
look
to-
into getting operational costs for this building.
I mean, it was,
Says the woman who's been here for 4 months. So I mean, we can see, I can try to see what's possible. If that's a simulation we'd like run.
in my opinion, building new or doing remodels like this, it'd be a shame to not do top-notch insulation and energy efficiency equipment and utilize that federal money that's available for that. Because even that, you can get tax credits for insulation as well. All these things have to be run down and verified, but
And don't get me wrong, when I say we're kind of at the threshold of compliance, I mean, you're not getting a cheap building by any means. I mean, it's going to be warm and it's going to have a totally sealed thermal envelope in there. And Minnesota, we're fortunate in Minnesota that we do kind of abide by the highest energy code currently right now. So we are, if we were to build this in Iowa or one of the Dakotas, for example, you could get by with a lot less insulation. Because we're in Minnesota, that insulation requirement off the jump is higher. So you're closer probably to those requirements already.
I mean, that's good. I just think better insulation is better.
Certainly.
If it doesn't blow the costs up crazy.
Minnesota good, is Iowa better, huh?
Yeah, yes, sir. In that respect.
Than just Iowa.
Yeah, it's a whole breath. It's a lot of them. Minnesota's just kind of at the top.
Yeah.
I think the general layout is good when I was going through it. And police are getting everything they need, fire getting everybody. I mean, is there any needs that are missing in this plan?
We spent hours discussing this, so I'm really hoping nothing surprising comes out.
That sounds like a want.
There is, that's.
No,
Yeah.
John, that's where the solar would go.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no rooftop helo pads. It's all future solar.
No, Chief Seahusen, how do you feel about, do you want a door separating the kitchenette to the community space or?
I think it would be nice for the kitchenette, not for us.
Uh.
It would be nice because we make noise over there.
Yeah,
And, I think plus the smell.
What do you think
out
on
here.
left or right side?
Kind of where the existing door already is over there.
Is that,
That must be a little, yeah,
Here.
that's what I'm thinking it
I
is.
think so.
Actually, I think it's.
It might be more east.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's about even there.
and what I might do? And then this door here, do you want this in the kitchenette side? So you're walking right into the kitchenette or right into the community room? From that existing fire hall?
Probably community room, right?
Into the community room.
Okay. You know, if we gotta move these around, if you guys decide later, hey, you know what, let's just flip it around, that's no big deal, but just so we make sure we get it all the openings captured in there.
Show that one, so in this way.
Mhm.
Yeah, cause where's the door from the community room into the fire hall?
That was that previous one that was also kind of in the kitchenette.
Correct.
If you're getting rid of that closet, we could go back to, right? So.
Yeah,
That closet's getting illuminated in there? Is that what I heard?
Kind of how he has it right now. There'd be two doors that you gotta put in there, yes.
Okay.
'Cause if
And
you
there's
put-
currently one?
you have one door down to the east that goes into the bays and then one that comes into the kitchenette. But the way it was drawn, there was no door from the kitchenette into the community room. But I think you'd want to close the kitchenette. That looks really big compared to what it is right now, if it's in the same footprint, but. So we don't have to move the walls, I think you put the door where it is on the east side of the kitchenette
Okay,
Give
we
us
should
the
maybe
door
take a look
going.
at that one or.
into the bays.
could it be the same door that exists now?
Stay.
Yeah,
Update.
Mhm.
That's where I would keep it.
yeah,
That goes right out. Towards.
where you need it. Yeah. One less hole you have to cut.
That's right.
Yep.
In the-
Northern should be the-
In the PD garage there too, I was thinking it would be good to stub up 220 50 amp circuits for electric car charging.
Inside of that garage?
Yeah.
Really going in.
This one's already ordering Teslas.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I'm thinking. Well, you're writing the check. Yeah, kind of am.
Is that a want or a need?
It's kind of a want, but I just would want to make sure it wouldn't be a hassle to do it down the road.
Totally fair.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, at least see about providing the availability to do, add it in the future
Yeah.
at least, right? So-
Even just like if
It's
conduit was there,
conduit.
is empty, it'd be fine as long as it reached the panel.
Okay, how about on the fire department side, is that?
No, I don't think that'll be for a while.
I don't think so either.
Although the one Minneapolis Fire Department, they bought the first,
Ah.
there's an electric fire truck out there.
Yeah. Chevy Volt with.
Oh,
the,
way too much.
5 million,
Is that what it was?
almost as much as this edition.
Yeah. No, I'm not proposing that,
Maybe next year.
but we'll see.
We'll see.
Future's always in motion.
With the battery.
How about the office? How does the staff like the office layout?
I have cautioned everybody to not claim an office at this time. But everyone's excited to have their own separate door. We're excited to hear about insulation, so we can't necessarily always hear our neighbor. And the storage needs, it gives us a good amount of homework to do in our own storage facilities to make sure that what we're keeping, we need, and make sure that we're following our record retention schedule. So I've heard only good things, but 3 people are here who can contradict me if that's not the case.
Nice thing about sprinkling the facility is you're able to fill in that existing main entrance that you have so that it makes it a pretty nice office in that 101 space in that upper left-hand corner.
Are you gonna have any place over there?
Is this all lighting? Is that what these are? This,
We're gonna
Yeah,
go.
the ceiling plan.
yeah,
Like we do
Yes, sir.
now.
Yep.
We could probably.
and those
we're
are,
gonna add a lot
I
of
assume
outlets if we
LEDs and
want.
everything like that.
Correct.
So that's for that 179D. We can get, I think it's up to $5 a square foot.
Okay.
But we want to run that down. And it's,
Like,
since we're
now,
moving
if
from
there are
fluorescent to
meetings-
LED, we'll probably be able to get a good chunk of that money.
We're done.
Is that a tax credit to the same thing where
Yeah,
you get the reimbursement,
Yeah.
and give it back to you guys?
that's only based on
That was
watching
a
about 15
compromise.
minutes of YouTube.
Well, I've dealt with that a couple of different, in a couple of different scenarios. I personally have never seen it play out the full way through though, so I'm missing bits and pieces of it
Yeah.
right now.
Are we we're scheduled till 6:30? Is that right?
I mean, we can end sooner.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we get through everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well, if the plan largely looks okay with you all, we'd like to review the budget a little bit, and then if we have time, depending on the schedules, the next phase of this, assuming that you all are okay with where we're sitting at plan and budget wise, the next step for us is to develop that DD set. And we want to start talking interior finishes, what everything looks like and getting to that final check set for you all before we go to bed.
We can look at it.
But, so I guess last call for floor plan, questions for the room. All right, great. So yeah, on the very last sheet, and I'll flip to that, on the computer screen as well, so we can all see it. But the very last sheet is, doesn't have the overall price, but it has the price breakdown, per area. This is generally speaking, the amount of money per portion, and then the cost per square foot. And the cost per square foot to this point is fairly accurate to the areas you're seeing. And this is putting our budget at 2.38 million. And that is including the cost of that sprinkler and everything you see planned here as well. The one thing that isn't included in that 2.38 budget is prevailing wages. We understand that is going to be an increase. We're just kind of understanding that as part of that USDA loan early this week. So we don't understand that total number, what it could be. Every trade is different. They have a different kind of flex they put on that. So that's an unknown for us right now, but our number, cost to complete right now is about 2.38 plus whatever the prevailing wages is.
Interestingly, the prevailing wage is part of the 179D as well to get a larger tax credit.
Mhm.
So maybe we can get some of it back.
Possible, certainly.
Sure. So, I think if, we talked about the next step, if we were to move forward into what we call a design development drawings, a DD set of drawings. After the completion of those drawings, we would go out and do another pricing exercise and get more accurate pricing because it's more developed, right? And at that time, we could ask those subs to provide prevailing wage prices, which since it's modified different for every type of sub or type of labor, we'd be able to get a fairly close labor number with the prevailing wages at that time. But yeah, it sounds like it's a significant increase. It sounds like from what your more standard pricing would be. Any comments on the current budget?
Well, Matt, what did you set as the budget when we started this?
2.
You want to add stuff, huh?
Well, well, I want to see.
Well, there goes the Tesla.
Yeah. Well, and you have to think about what you're not spending if you go high efficiency. So it's okay in my mind to spend some capital on high efficiency equipment, so long as there's a return on that investment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great mindset to have. You know, as a builder, we want to provide you a building that's gonna last you
Mhm.
well into the future, you know, for future generations with the what do you call it? The code 2030 or kind of, you know, the carbon charges that are coming in the future. I think it's certainly a great mindset to be looking towards you know, alternative energies, how you can get some of those monies back using the tax credit programs that are in place now. But the flip side of that is certainly it's going to cost you a little more upfront. And to meet all of the requirements to that 179D, I can't confidently say that we have all of that built in right now. So before we start taking money off of that total, it might, you know, creep up, you know, some more percentage before we get there. And we can't speak to what that is right now.
Sure.
More skippers.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly happy to kind of run through those exercises with you. But again, I couldn't say, you know, definitely it's gonna save you a lot of money.
Okay, but I do remember it being 2 to 2.5.
I got pushed to 2.5, yeah. So we're
We're
in there, but we're,
We're in there, we're barely.
yeah.
So you're saying we hit the bullseye?
Yeah, you're good. Thanks.
You might let us sit down for dinner. We're in the doorway.
Yeah.
No, it's not insane, I'll say that.
I got one question. You got 3 highlighted areas.
Sure.
The white area you're not touching. There was no
It's-
dollar value put to that.
We're gonna, you know, retrofit as we need to kind of make it fit with the rest of the building, but no, largely there's not a lot of anything that's going into that space. We're kind of taking out, the skeleton dryer that you have, the washer and some of those compressors. We're gonna relocate those for you. We're gonna cut some openings, in between this existing wall and put those openings in there for you, but largely we're not
Okay.
touching the existing fire.
The exhaust system that's in the new part will handle what's in the existing. Things like that. I just want to know if that's in that 2.38.
Yeah, we have add ventilation, changes to the gas, the unit heaters, exhaust and intake louvers, and then the relocating stuff in the existing. We have that factored in here. You know, our estimator has that broken down. I would assume, you know, some of that is coming in this red portion here. But we tried to break down the numbers in a way that was pretty digestible, in just ballpark, so.
Yeah, I think in general, those items from the existing fire hall would be captured in the red area and be part of those numbers.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Any other comment from council on the budget?
Personally feel like we're not getting a great, and not saying that there's anything wrong with the plans. I don't know if we're spending money wisely on the police department side. Based on what we pay for a lease and the fact that we will be absorbing operating costs as in maintenance, upkeep and utilities on another third of this building, basically. I think we're going down a bit of we're expanding our costs in a way we haven't thought about.
Because of just the regular building maintenance and then heating and. cooling.
Everything, whatever it costs, in a prior life, I knew that there was a rough cost for maintenance and upkeep of a commercial building. I don't remember what that is anymore now, but it's gonna be costs that we're gonna add on top of whatever bond payment or whatever loan bond, whatever payment goes to pay for this building. Since we're significantly adding on to the square footage of it. Granted, our lease payment escalates currently as written.
Well, and it's about 50,000 and about 50,000 a year in payments is about $1 million to one. So
At what
the
interest rate?
savings for losing the rent basically would cover the note for building the police.
But the rent
Well-
doesn't stay at that.
No, I know.
The rent
It goes
increases.
in pretty fast, 2 to
Yes.
3%.
So I think it looks good.
Thanks. You don't hurt my feelings if it doesn't look good. Sometimes
I-
it's a numbers game, you know?
And as far as where everything's located, that's all up to them. They're the ones that work in this.
Well, let me ask
in
the
this
question.
office.
What could be done if we had to, say, cut 200,000 out of this plan? How would you do that?
The easiest way, the most straightforward way is to cut off square footage. You know, we ran some high level exercises in terms of, well, if you guys really don't like the sprinkler, you know, what are some things we can do if you don't like these additions? That's kind of why we included the numbers in the way we did here, so that we could kind of present this to you and say, you know, if we take off a portion of one building or another, that's the most straightforward way to cut costs, right? Because you're looking at really the renovation and then two new additions. So you can kind of split it into 3 projects, right? So you either shelf one of those projects, you shelf one of those additions for the time being, and you get what you really think you need now. You come back later and add that third portion of it. Or you do all 3 right now, but you maybe don't get all of what you want in one of them. The easiest thing we've been able to identify so far is taking out about 1,100 square feet from this fire addition, and kind of taking it back to here. At that point, you're really just getting the storage for the new engines. You're not getting any of that flexible space. You're losing that training space. But it does, you know, start to take a chunk of that money out.
How much does that equal there, do you suppose?
This portion that I just drew is about 1,100 square feet. That's what you have to, that's what you'd be backing out. So 1,100 times 197.
216,000.
So, and to back that up a little bit, like the way that we look at these when we first sit down, like we look at what the building that you have here now, and when you run a code summary on it or a code analysis, it's the code is telling us what can we build and how can we build it, right? Well, this building's already existing, so it's got some wood components to it. So normally if we were to design a brand new building, if you wanted to get to a certain square footage, one of the things you can do is build out of non-combustible materials, right? So not use wood in the construction. That would allow us to build more square footage. Here, we don't really have that option. What we can do, another option to add square footage is to add the sprinkler increase or add a sprinkler system to the building, allows you to build bigger. With it just so happens that when we laid out this footprint, we're very close to not requiring a sprinkler system, but if we did that, we would have to reduce some square footage because of the overall total allowable square footage. And other things do come into play, like the proximity to the property line over here actually comes into play on that as well. But what Cody's mentioning is that if we were to reduce the square footage, and I want to say it was 1,100 some, right, total?
Yep.
Like you said, that would get us back into the conversation where we could look at not doing a sprinkler system. It would require us to do some additional items such as some fire barriers in between the more than likely between the fire station and the office, the city hall offices.
But that area isn't even a problem. You don't want the police station.
Well, I think it all needs to be looked at. And it's not that I don't want the police station. It's just, this thing has to be paid for over the long term.
Well, as the only entity bringing any money to this project, I'd say the police department will be the last place we cut any
Well,
spaces from.
I don't know that we can cut anything out of it just because it looks like it's pretty packed tight in there anyways.
We're accepting that spot, that size, we're fine with that. And like I said, we're the only ones bringing any money to this project. Annually, yearly, so I'm not ready to start cutting the police department down anymore.
Right. And I mean, if we're gonna start talking about changing it again and cutting,
This is a basic draw of what we need. This is nothing fancy, nothing special.
And I guess,
I think you guys asked for the least amount of everything that everybody could only needs, and I think that everybody delivered with only giving us their needs. They didn't give you wants because you asked for needs. So, I mean, if we're gonna go down this path, then it's just, we're gonna just start again with the cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting to where we get back down to zero. Let's just make that clear right now for everybody so we can stop wasting everybody's time.
That's not true at all, because through this process, bringing Marcus and we've saved $1 million. We were at 3.5 the last time we had
Right,
drawings.
and
given
this
to
is
us.
what Marcus brought you.
based off what we asked them to.
Exactly. They've done exactly everything we've asked them to do.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that,
I'm just seeing if we can find some efficiencies.
yeah, and it still has to get paid for no matter what, if we asked for the right stuff or not. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're getting at, but it looks pretty tight and you know, I know that extra space in the fire hall will get utilized. You know, it's not gonna be wasted by any means. It's not something we'd look back and say that was a wasted part of the project.
I mean, I guess the question comes down to the chief as Chief Seus and is, if you had, I'm gonna say $200,000 over 40 years, because that's roughly, that's what you'd save. Is it better spent on that space or on equipment? I guess. I don't know what your needs are. I mean, that's the trade-off in the whole scheme of things. And I don't know the answer to it. I'm not part of the fire department. So I'm asking your opinion. That space is a need.
You could take 8 to 10 feet off the end.
So not anything worth talking about.
Right. I mean, the trucks are, like I said, they're getting longer.
Mm.
If you go in our fire hall right now, we've got basically 2 feet between trucks and walls and things right now. I would say it'd be foolish to cut it back, you know, if like you went back, you know, 15 feet or something like that, because then in a few years, you're gonna be looking for more space again, because you know, nobody really makes small fire trucks anymore, and they're just getting bigger.
Yeah.
You know,
It'll be good for the guys to be able to
Well, I'm
move
just,
around in there too, you know?
again, just asking the questions.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to have it that size that it is right now, it accommodates, I mean, in the case of a weather event, and you have to have, you know, 15 different people or entities here, police, fire, different towns, everything, you know, that meeting room right there and this meeting right here might not be big enough. I mean, to open up the doors of the bay and your trucks are going to be gone, you've got a big area to use. I mean, there's nothing that's overly big on these rooms as far as the meeting room there and this meeting room. Because this meeting room is actually probably going to get a little smaller, it looks like. And we're not packed, but they're tight. So I mean, if you cut that off, I mean, like you said, it probably isn't worth talking about the amount that we really should or could give up. But if you have too much more than that, then all of a sudden you have the same problem we're at today, 10 years from now. And then we're spending more money to do something again.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I think another piece of low hanging fruit that we've kind of identified is, excuse me, you know, some areas that we're planning on remodeling in this green area, for instance, this community space, and maybe some of these offices, you know, we can start to kind of break those down and see what it looks like if you don't redo, you know, you just leave this kitchenette, this community pretty much exactly as it is. You deal with it for the time being, and at some point when you're ready to upgrade the finishes, you do. Because the kitchenette and then this area largely, they're unchanged other than cutting some openings and then doing new flooring, new paint, new ceiling on there, right? So that's going to save you a little bit of money. Maybe you don't redo all of these offices right away. You basically stop your construction. You kind of do like this portion, and then anything above this line you leave for the time being, and then kind of make do with it. That's something that's fairly easy to consider and kind of run some numbers on. It makes it a little more cumbersome for you all as you're working in it.
But then don't we leave that having a door over on that end then?
You would have a door. I mean, you could fill that in as part of the first phase of construction. That could be, you know, that's a cost, but it's certainly less than
And
retrofitting the
without
whole space.
rearranging that area and fixing it up, it's not usable as an office.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we're losing space.
Yes, certainly. yeah, you'd have to lose that space for the time being. You guys kind of figure out how you fit in there. I can't answer that, just seeing it not drawn, but yeah, it's basically you leave it as is and you're just making do with it until yeah, you're ready to absorb that cost.
I would say that would be difficult because you're putting more people into a smaller space that's not reconfigured with this new plan.
And I guess the last portion of that, I apologize, I forgot to mention is, I know that right now you handle your police and some things offsite. As we bring in those additions, if we looked at not renovating the city hall portion of it, could your employees office somewhere else for the time being? Could you kind of relocate? And
During
come back later?
construction,
To be determined
To be
based on
determined.
to be determined based on what you'd like here.
Yeah. That's definitely something that we would have to explore if that's the direction of council, but that would be difficult. We'd probably have to stagger, who's on site, who's not on site. That could impact services to residents.
Yep.
So that's something to consider if we're going down that
And
direction.
just to kind of bring it back down, one more time is this number that we have for you, the 2.38, we feel pretty good about that number. That's kind of total box, right? That's everything that you're asking for right now, and we feel we can deliver that to you. Any of these changes where we start to talk about phasing or cutting back, number one, you're not getting exactly what you want. Number two, it's a lot more time and headache for you all as well. So is that worth a couple $100,000 is for you all to decide, but that's kind of how it shakes out.
And I don't think it pays the cost or pays to talk about doing phasing unless we're gonna cut out hundreds of thousands of dollars from this.
Yeah,
'cause
certainly.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and when you get to phasing, we talk about, okay, well, eventually when it's all done, we have to consider that cost. We got to consider the HVAC and the sprinklers and everything that goes into it. So you're going to pay for a portion of all of that stuff up front anyway, that you might not get to use in that first or second phase.
Mhm.
It's just built in for an expansion that may or may not happen. Sure. Because we've certainly seen, yep, we're going to do this in 3 phases and it doesn't get past a second phase or whatever.
Any other comment about the budget?
I guess the next question for us then is if you all feel comfortable with this and you'd like us to proceed to that design development phase. That's the next, step for us. We'll discuss that now, discuss kind of what you're thinking about for finishes and fit out, then we'll take it back and do our work and present to you again in kind of the timeline that we have laid out.
Anybody have any reservations to move on to the next stage?
Nope.
Good discussion so far. I appreciate that. I'm just gonna stay on this plan and we're gonna kind of walk through the different departments and you can kind of give me a general feel for what you're thinking on the aesthetic of it. And I guess we'll just start up in the city hall area. What we have figured in here right now is either like an LVT or a carpet on the flooring throughout. And then we have wood frame construction in here again with that sound acoustical bats for really good sound insulation there, but just wood framed walls, gypsum painted. And then a new ACT ceiling throughout. So you're gonna have fresh white ceilings throughout all construction. It'll be nice new lights, LEDs, white ceilings. And then again, either carpet or that LVT with like a painted gypsum walls.
What's LVT?
Like a luxury vinyl tile, kind
Okay.
of a better than that. But not a ceramic tile, like a composite plastic.
Yep.
And it's got luxury in it, so it sounds good. And you don't have to tell me, yeah, we want carpet, yeah, we want LVT, but that's kind of the ballpark. Those are the things that we're thinking about, puts us in the right range.
No wallpaper.
No
I think
wallpaper,
that's
no ma'am.
Heard a resounding no for.
If you had me
Coming back.
take a guess at what I should throw in there first, would you all lean towards like a carpet tile or maybe?
I think so. Most people have carpeted in their offices and I haven't heard huge disagreements with that. Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want carpet in the lobby, but in offices, wouldn't you want a carpet in your office?
These tiles, you just.
Yeah,
Painted too bad.
The carpet tiles is a lot nicer than just the pig.
Yeah.
Yep.
That also helps with sound,
Yes.
big into sound.
It does.
What's the finance director doing? It's so messy anyways.
Working, eating at his desk.
Back there eating sunflower seeds.
Looking at your existing windows in there, and then we've got a couple new windows in that police edition. I guess I don't know what they have for returns or sills right now.
About 8 inches.
If we could do like a
What's-
solid surface sill on there or gypsum, you know, depending on how aggressive you're gonna be around those windows.
I don't think we're gonna be that aggressive around those windows.
Okay,
Until it comes to Christmas.
Until it comes to Christmas time, we are decorating our Christmas windows now.
so you wanna have us put like a surface on there, kind of a solid surface on there?
Yeah, they're wood right now.
Okay,
People
good.
put plants on them, things like that.
Okay. We could even do that. We could just look at doing wood for those new ones. I'll get a picture of what they look like now. We'll kind of make a decision on that.
Yeah, we probably have some too.
Okay. And then for countertops throughout, I have got different countertops and different caseworks kind of throughout the lobbies, different areas in the community space. Thinking like a plastic laminate countertop, with plastic laminate cabinets, kind of basically anywhere you see that would all be plastic laminate.
Okay.
Again, that's just, you know, we can get, the finishes themselves can be a lot different. You can have some variety that way, but it's pretty economical.
Good.
It's really just a lot like this casework right here.
Yeah.
This finish. Okay, that's easy enough. We do have some security glazing planned at at both receptions, really, this one and this small window down here, so that's already considered. Were we thinking maybe we want like a harder surface in this lobby?
Yes.
Okay,
Said you can put your tile there, your vinyl tile,
Mhm.
Luxury,
luxury vinyl tile.
only the best.
On some modest. line.
Yes, I would prefer that.
Do you have a?
It's just on a lower shelf.
and then right now, we've just got tile planned on like the wet walls of your restroom, so you'd have tile to 5 feet. And any wall that there's a fixture, and then beyond that is just painted gypsum board,
And the floor is tile as well.
floor is tiled as well.
That's great.
And I think that was across the board on all
Correct.
6 restrooms.
And you're insulating those restrooms too?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Sound
So we
insulated.
don't have to hear.
That's right.
Yes.
You're not gonna get that. I've got a couple notes specifically for that on the main floor plan. I've got a few spelled out for that. So we've definitely thrown some money at that for you all.
Anyone think, Ross?
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
I don't think so.
That one meeting that was super quiet and awkward.
You made a good
That's how
point about
we
why
know
we needed
for
insulation in
anyone
the. Sorry.
Just know that.
I don't
change
hear us.
to the view. I'm gonna put a
Staff
little-
appreciates your
Yeah,
sacrifice.
thanks, Ross. Flag on the bathroom.
I'll get a.
And then probably do some hard flooring at this PD check-in as well. Just to continue that.
But their offices get carpet too, right?
Yeah, well, we could do, you know, I'm thinking just at this check-in area as an extension of the lobby, you do a hard surface in there, something like that LVT. In this PD reception, these offices interview, even throughout the hallway, you could do carpet tile there as well. And then in the chamber, same thing, we'll do carpet, painted walls, ACT. We'll have a vinyl base that runs along everything for you to kind of tie some of that stuff in together. In your kitchenette, currently, we do have new casework planned. And again, that's just gonna be new plastic laminate, be new countertop, new casework, have some uppers and lowers in there, just freshen up the space for you. Electrical IT room is just gonna be painted throughout.
I would say starting at mechanical all the way through community, that can be the luxury vinyl tile. I don't think we want carpet in the community space.
Sure. So say that for me one more time. The
From
kitchenette.
mechanical, like the hallway outside, mechanical, all the way through to community can be LVT.
Got it. And we're not gonna do new flooring in that electric room.
Oh, I don't think you would in the mechanical room either. I think
Okay.
you would just leave concrete in there.
Perfect. I imagine the office storage and utility can also be the LVT. It's like the fire office storage can be LVT
And the utility room as well.
or concrete.
Oh, I think it's an office, never mind.
Yeah, and your utility room and your evidence rooms and your med storage, you can certainly just leave that, you know, a concrete if you want. There is a cost associated with a sealed concrete. Typically less than a flooring.
That sounds good then.
And epoxy is gonna cost you a little more.
More than the LVT or just more than the seal?
To be determined, but I would say probably more than your LVT. If you want a good epoxy that's not gonna chip. You know, we don't wanna. We could go to like Menards and get you some that comes in a bucket and throws down, but in a commercial setting, generally, that's not gonna last you guys very long, and we don't want you getting angry at us in a couple of years.
Okay.
We know where your offices are.
Exactly, that's a problem. No, don't want you coming back there. So we'll do LVT here, and then we can do like concrete through this utility room. That sounds good with you guys. I think that's certainly reasonable.
Those are all good ways to whittle
Mm.
costs down a little bit.
You said you'd seal the concrete?
Yes, sir.
Would there be like a silicone texture, not silicone, silica sand texture to it?
No,
It's gonna be wet.
I mean, when you start talking like silica or like a sort of a broadcast, then you really start getting into like that epoxy level finish that starts to
Yeah.
add quite a bit more. With the sealed concrete, it's to your eye, it's really just gonna look like concrete.
Is it gonna be slippery when wet?
I don't,
Oh.
I'm not.
No, it would not be slippery when wet. I mean, like a sealed concrete is what we do throughout most of our typical buildings, like liquid storage. So I mean, it's good for walking
then-
and work surface.
When cleaning people come in and they wanna mop that floor, is it gonna be
Nope. you
like
just want
mopping your
one.
garage floor or mopping a tile floor?
Maybe somewhere in between. Lane, what do you think on that?
I don't have to clean it. so I
Everybody's
don't
super messy
care.
with the floor.
No, they're great.
Sweet, I've
They're
never
great.
known
They're
this.
great questions.
Make sure that it's not something that's gonna be extremely difficult to keep clean, especially in an area that's gonna be really high traffic area. I think he's got a really valid point to that question.
Mhm.
That's a low. Just gonna be careful with that deal. But if the tile's not slippery, I'm fine with that. And
Let's
that's probably
do-
the easiest to clean.
Tell you what, I'm gonna add these notes in here. We'll kind of look through the different things, make sure, you know, we'll talk to our vendors a little bit, look at some of our historical data and kind of figure out a good finish to put in there for you.
Yeah.
But just to understand what you're looking for in there, that's really important.
Yeah,
And thanks
'cause
for the
that
feedback.
Utility room is, we're gonna be muddy if you come into that thing.
Okay.
so. And I don't want these guys slipping and falling and getting hurt. We're not gonna do any much.
There's a product from TK Products. They do have a agent to it. Pretty much do it yourself. That's the other new thing.
Do you want them to look into epoxy to see what the difference would be?
I'm just.
Or are you for sure that it'd be like a lot more?
And epoxy is gonna be an ad, a broadcast is gonna be an ad. Sure, I mean, it's certainly, that ad comes with that level of quality.
We could, yeah, I
Definitely,
mean,
but-
we can certainly
But that
get
would
some,
last longer than the vinyl.
Yeah,
tile.
and honestly, it's a fairly small area, so if it's a little bit of an ad, it might not be that much if it's.
yeah, we
small.
could certainly share some square foot costs with the different flooring options and then you could pick and choose.
That'd be great.
Although just a non-slip, regular concrete seems fine to me.
As long
Right,
as,
but
it's- as
he's
long as
talking
it's
about having
cleanable.
to clean it,
Yeah,
having to clean it up. It's not gonna be easy to clean it up,
Yeah, and
is what they're saying.
non-slip concrete sounds porous, right?
Yeah.
That's why they seal it.
We'll
Well,
certainly
it's- yeah,
chat
it's
to make
concrete.
sure that it's cleanable, non-slippable,
That sounds good.
things like that.
we just want to see an example probably and put our minds to rest then.
An example.
Cause I think the concrete, that what I'm envisioning, it's not rough concrete or anything, but it's not polished smooth, like you just bull floated a couple times and it's like tread.
Not a
Yep.
hard.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about what you want it to be, right? You guys don't have to give us definite answers right now, you know, we absorb your comments and, we kind of vet through those things, you know, kind of in real time, right? Cause I could tell you this flooring costs more today when it doesn't. Those things change a little bit too. But we'll be able to give you some breakdowns for that and we kind of pick and choose as we go. Again, we appreciate your comments early and Elizabeth's kind of the back and forth you've had with the plan, right? Cause if the plan doesn't change and we're just talking about finishes now, you know, we're much further than we were before. So these are
Excellent.
good conversations to have, good place to be in. Again, these PD lockers, we're gonna do tile on the floors, tile on the wet walls to that 5 feet, painted gyp and ACT, otherwise. And then in the cubicle area and offices, essentially everything that is not the garage would have carpet, in the police area.
That sound good with you two?
Yep, just make sure I have a heated floor.
In the garage?
Probably.
Do we want to add a heated floor in the garage?
Oh, that's a joke, no.
Okay,
That was a joke.
clarifying.
That's definitely a one.
We've had good conversations about wants versus needs.
Apologize, I'm picky about this. I just gotta make sure I get it right now. Okay, we're good here. That's gonna be a sealed concrete for you guys.
While finishing there, I think we were kind of leaning towards a metal like white liner panel finish
Mhm.
in the garage.
And then, really we were kind of thinking the same thing for the new engine bay, the new engine area, and then that new garage bay, where you do kind of sealed concrete for you and then liner panel all the way up, just a white liner panel kind of on the inside, give you a nice wash down surface.
And the ceilings as well in those two spaces.
Yep. So there we
How
go.
about those are the final three spaces in the police hall? They're the shared evidence. What are those two rooms?
Private evidence and med storage.
Storage.
Are you good with concrete or do you want tile in your evidence?
Yeah, yeah.
Painted walls.
Yeah, we're not.
Or were we thinking liner panel in there even?
Preference on liner or painted walls? Seems fine. Okay, boom, boom, and that med storage will do that too.
Older water.
So this is going.
Special ventilation or something on that?
We talked ventilation on that
Yeah.
already, as far as just kind of have both private and shared evidence as a negative pressure area.
We have a-
Holders and things like
Yes.
that, to make sure that air is constantly down, if it's open and back into the place of building. So I think those have got some notes on that.
I do, yes, thank you.
We had a really fun meeting the other day.
We're gonna keep these meetings as short as possible. What? My Monday morning meetings are your highlight?
That was till now.
Back in the day.
Hey, good save.
Those are just. as fun.
Okay, thanks.
Jason,
Everybody comfortable with the amenities?
And then do you, at your evidence and your med storage, if we're gonna do gypsum walls in there, it's like an ACT ceiling, okay, in those areas for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
cool. So we have those areas, these ones are covered.
Double layered.
No. That's we're all defines.
With your two service areas, and we got everything else in the PD covered. Cool. Do you want us to look at, any new wall finishes or updates in the existing engine room? Right now, we've got a plan to just kind of leave it as is.
New paint job.
New paint job? Are your walls right now, are they just block walls?
There's. They're block walls, and I think there's like 1x2s, and then there's like some, it's not gypsum necessarily, but there's a hollow spot between the finish and the concrete, so.
Okay.
You don't need to touch that other than whatever you gotta do for electrical upgrades. But if it was just painted, we painted it ourselves many years ago. But that would be something we could cut out. We don't need to have a paint.
Easy to get a price on it for you though, certainly.
Saying if we're taking stuff off the walls, there's gonna be areas that have nobody painted behind the pipes or whatever. Right.
Well, it's already.
You're gonna have to do it anyway. Right.
Thinking of elsewhere.
Like a training one for me. With the point of hose, come on.
Yeah, just put water, paint in the truck and spray it.
I know who your tech guy is for that.
Let's talk about the outside of the building really quick. This is where you will really hurt my feelings if you don't like it. So just kidding. What we had planned is, the existing building, we essentially leave the same. On the new police and that new fire, we would do metal liner panel on the outside, do a 4-foot wainscot, of just kind of like a highlight color. So maybe a red to match your roof or whatever that it is being, but a metal panel exterior wall with a 4-foot wainscot for a little bit of a highlight. And then we right now have planned to kind of build out that soffit and continue that soffit line, that existing soffit that you have around, just to tie in your new additions to your existing building. So it starts to look something like you see on screen here. But largely, the comment, I guess, or what we want to take away is that we'd be doing like a metal panel finish and then joining that to your existing building, if that sounds reasonable. Good. And then as part of this next exercise as well, we can get some better visuals on that, start to select some colors and really make this the scheme kind of tie together so that as we go out for that next set of bidding, that's pretty clear to everybody. And you just have 3 new windows. I have them sized and with a horizontal mullion to match what you have existing, just kind of plan that same repetition across. The spacing on the Sergeant is the same as what it is on your existing. So there's some symmetry that way.
Would it be possible to move the other south window around to the south side of the building? So we have a window on the south side, just bump it around the corner somewhere?
You want to add a 4th window or just move that?
No, just move
Okay.
that. We don't need to
Sure.
add this.
No, he wants that morning sun in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Sunbathing in there, gotta use that vitamin D. Chief's gonna kick you.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any needs that you all have that you've been talking about that we have not addressed yet? And that's kind of a broad question.
No.
Okay. Exterior lighting, site lighting, is there? You know, typically we've got lights over that overhead door. That's kind of the extent of what we do for just a typical. I don't know if there's a police requirement or any additional kind of site lighting that you all may need.
Not that we know of.
Okay. We've talked about some secured entrances and I have those, have spelled out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 5 down here.
I would say the fire hall exit doors, I think right now are they they have codes on them? Is that still the case? Okay,
Mechanical lock.
Yeah.
not Electronic or anything, so. Like you punch
a
it that way.
keypad,
Okay.
like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure that's not your code, but. So that would be needed on the exterior of the fire garage doors.
Of these garage doors or these man doors here?
The man doors,
Okay.
sorry, the man doors.
Person doors.
Yes.
Do they make garage doors that have person doors in them?
I don't think so. It'd only be, well, the sectional ones, right? If you wanted to get a really expensive, like hydraulic bifold door,
Yeah.
probably. That's up there with your electric stations in the garage, probably on the wants list.
You know, your wants are really expensive for somebody that's not winning.
It was a question.
It's a good one.
It's worth exploring if it
Yeah.
pays for
Yeah.
itself in a
That's
number
a
of
really
years.
good idea.
It seems like somebody should manufacture that.
They do for the right price.
That's true.
Great. Get probably anything. for the price.
That's right.
Any new updates on the property line to the east?
We're gonna be talking about that at a closed session tonight.
Okay, awesome.
Is it appropriate to include like cameras, like surveillance in just the police portion or like?
Oh, we
cameras
probably have that.
Yeah, they're asking about cameras, security cameras in the building. Do you know where they would be needed? I would assume in the lobby,
Evidence room,
in the evidence room.
processing room.
Yeah, from the processing area, like the shared evidence in that,
Okay.
that lobby area.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys would also want one in we should have one in the shared lobby as well as our private duty lobby.
We've got extra cameras though, right?
We need to inventory. One of the things I'm working on is inventorying our entire IT assets, cameras included. So I don't want to misspeak about the number of cameras we have and what would be made available. Because we're not going down that road, but I'm glad you brought up cameras.
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of cameras that can move around. There's
Yeah.
so many cameras.
Yeah.
Good on camera.
I would like to inventory,
Hmm.
let you know the number that we have, and come back with that.
And I'm not an IT guy. We actually have an IT Cody at Marcus. I'm not him.
Okay.
You know, with old cameras retrofitting, how they work in new systems and kind of everything talks to each other. I don't know how much of that can be reused either. So we'll make sure that we include a price
Yeah.
and get you kind of, the areas that you want. And then if we need to whittle it back down from there, that's an option we can look at as well.
A lot of
But
times we'll have the electrician just run all the conduits, and if you guys have a provider that you already run through a monitoring system,
Yeah.
they'll come and just attach the cameras at that point.
We obviously would need electrical in the chamber area to accommodate this current type of setup, not this exact setup, because that's on my high list of things to change. But the amount of electrical that's needed in the chambers to still do things electronically,
and are you thinking you would like those as like floor receptacles?
or even wall
Just
receptacles.
additional wall receptacles probably. Okay, we'll just probably get together sometime through the week, kind of talk about where we want those to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I know. Anything else you can think of?
I'm trying. There's still a little bit of white on this page.
Yeah, I think we certainly have a good start and we can start getting that next step of drawings put
Yeah, I
together.
see we're a little bit over 6:30, so we'll try and wrap it up. I definitely would agree with Elaine. We got enough to be dangerous here. And then, we communicate pretty well through email with you all and the police. I appreciate you guys. So you guys are satisfied unless there's any other comments. I think this has been a great session. I thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Thanks, CJ. Appreciate you all walking us through this process. Relatively painless.
Try.
You guys are being too nice to us.
Gonna recess for just a couple of minutes. About 5 minutes. We'll
We haven't started the meeting, so yeah.
try and call the meeting to order somewhere around
Just-
7:40. That sound good?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, 6:40.
6:50.
50. Numbers are hard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So Matt, I got a question for you. Your idea is to eventually make solar paneling power this. Ideally, that's what I like to do.
Yeah, a chunk of it.
Okay, so how does that fit in with the current city code? Not allowed solar panels because.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't know that was.
Not at all. Sometimes we have a good discussion. I could go forever, Yeah, I believe so. I think we got everything. I got some extra plans.
Here, Olivia?
I assume it's based off of your.
That might be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have.
But, yeah.
So I don't know.
Because we have a contract that says we won't allow that.
Yes, so how was that look as a city, not only in solar panels, for their new building, but also.
No, that's all right.
Residential lot essentially, or neighboring residential lot, by having those panels. How's that?
Well, okay, so I think it's state law. Any utility has to net meter people if they want to put solar on their house. So I don't think that ordinance is.
We should look into that because people have wanted to switch to solar and are unable to. So that is actually something.
Well,
That is something.
part of it has to do with their contract with our provider saying that we won't feed back into.
Yeah, so that, but so
But yet from a residential point of view, it's different and I wouldn't feel comfortable
we
talking.
can't
about it.
generate our own electricity for
Subtle
sale.
lawyer.
We can generate electricity to offset the
Maybe.
electricity we use. Just like putting in a light bulb.
About that
Yeah.
contract?
Yes,
How about
Do you
what our
believe that
ordinance
is
is?
going to be?
Yeah, but we should.
And I totally agree with you.
Okay.
It's that we're at a point.
But you did that. to
Probably you're just
power
who
the-
I would be talking to about
Mm.
that.
And then you had all these different themes, these solar panels going up, whether it's on the- or the sidewalk,
The
whatever.
newspaper.
What do you think the response would be?
well, I think.
Hey, guys, okay, I was just wondering, 'cause I don't know the particulars about it, I just get the information that Deborah gets, on their request, and we were told that absolutely not. That's huge. About a year ago or so, I don't know if it was previous administration, but I assume it was zoning, I haven't seen anything change in the zoning.
So. there you go.
Was for the $2.6 million.
And he was told.
Okay, and I don't know if that's different because, if you're outside of city limits. Just being in that residence, I don't know. I know it's already.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like, when you're figuring out how.
Yeah.
45.
Sure, okay, I'm just curious. We'll talk later, I'm sure.
I can, yeah, I can. Take some weeds with that. I know.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah, I was just kind of curious about it, so.
Yes. Or, yeah, so we can. We can produce. From up there. And then it would be like saying, but.
All right, please for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order here. Determine quorum. Counselor Baumgartner.
Here.
Evers is absent. Ferguson.
Here.
I'm here. Patterness.
Here.
We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll just start off with a public forum. This is the time when the public is invited to come forward and address the council. When you do come forward, we ask that you provide your name for the record. Anybody from the public wish to address council at this time?
Anyone on Zoom?
You high schoolers are you? No? All right. Okay, we'll close down the public forum here. And we'll move forward with the approval and setting of the agenda. You've all had a chance to take a look at the agenda. Anything that needs to be pulled out of the consent agenda that you know of and put into discussion items. If not, we'll call for a meeting to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion's made by Ferguson, seconded by Patterness to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is set as written. We'll move down to the consent agenda. We have some meeting minutes. We have a service agreement with SEH, a resolution authorizing creation of a joint airport zoning board. Exciting. Airports GIS contract with SEH, a 2024 union agreement between the city and LELS, water tower attachment agreement, contract with Axe for cleaning services. We have a mutual aid agreement with Renville County. We have a resolution approving a grade adjustment for patrol sergeant. We have an amendment to the professional service agreement with the community design group. And we have the approval of donation of $5,000 to the Tech Rescue Squad. We have a police chief job description update and administrative assistant job description update. I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Patterness,
Second.
seconded by Baumgartner to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written. Moving right on into the discussion items here. We'll move right into the Highway 212 water main project. We've got a public hearing ahead of us. At first off here, we will we'll hear from our staff engineers here.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the audience. Just for the record, by way of introduction, Justin Black, City Engineer, and with me tonight is my assistant, Kendra Lingus. What I'd like to do is share with you a PowerPoint. It's about 10 slides long. And this is the same PowerPoint that we presented about a month ago to the council, just outlining the project and some information about special assessments, both in general, but also specific to the project. So I'm going to jump right into that. When we're talking about special assessments, we're talking about a process that allows local government to assess a portion of the cost for a project. And as part of that process, an assessment hearing is required. And that's really why we're here this evening, holding the hearing, provides an opportunity for any interested parties to provide testimony to the city council. As far as the project status goes, the project is complete. As the mayor had mentioned, this is the Highway 212 water main project where we extended water main along 212, replacing an aged piece of pipe that was breaking quite frequently. There's some turf restoration that we're going to review next spring. And in taking a look at it here recently, they're also going to have to bring in some topsoil. There's a couple areas that have settled a little bit. So we'll want to make sure they take care of that before we close the project out. We're still holding retainage on the project. but we've notified the contractor of those couple of items. From a cost and funding standpoint, the total project cost for construction, engineering, surveying, administrative, about $662,000. The revenue bond for this project has already been sold, and the financing is in place, and you can see we're just below that amount. So we're within budget for the overall project cost. Funding sources. So how are we going to pay for the revenue bond? The city had to borrow money to do the project. And you can see most of that is coming from the general tax levy and then the water utility fund, about $550,000. So almost 84% of the project is funded through those funding sources. The remaining portion is the special assessments. So just over 109,000, or you can see here with the percentages, about 16.5% is funded through special assessments for those water improvements. Just some more information about special assessments. It's a charge imposed on properties for a particular improvement. In this case, there was two items, the water main and then the water service that goes to each individual building or property. We've talked about this before. Special assessments are something that's pretty common throughout the state. With these types of improvement projects, the city has a policy on file, and we've applied that to this project as we've done in the past. Here's the special assessment rates. It's a little bit different than the Depew project in that we only have the water main categories. And you can see the center column, the blue column, is where we had estimated things last year. For the water main itself, it's being assessed at $35 per LF. That's linear foot or front footage of the property that it traverses. For the service lines, you can see respectively the smaller diameter 1-inch lines, just over $3,700 per unit or per property. There was one property that did have a larger 4-inch service, and we're assessing that at $5,900. So an example of how this would apply to a parcel or a property, if there's for example, a 90-foot wide lot, the water main would be assessed at that $34 per foot. And if there was one 1-inch service on that property, that would be applied at that $3,475. So a total assessment would be, in this case, $6,535. So in front of the council and also in the packet is what we call the assessment roll. It's a listing of all of the properties and their corresponding assessments. There's 13 properties on the project, and it provides a total amount assessed for each parcel. Those mailed notices were sent out prior to the hearing to each individual property owner with their specific assessment amount. And again, just over 109,000 was assessed on the project. There's also a map in front of you and in the packet that shows the parcels and the corresponding assessment amount. As far as the assessment period and interest rates, this would be payable until November 29th, 2024. So they have all the way till next tax cycle, if you will, to pay interest free. After that, next fall, after November 29th, any unpaid assessments would be certified to the county, and those would be payable over the next 20 years at a 5.15% annual interest. Payments would begin in the 2025 tax season. After that, property owners do have the opportunity or option, I should say, to pay the assessments off in full at any point in time over that 20-year term. They would do that at the county auditor's office. So again, be happy to go back to any of the slides or talk more about the project. Otherwise, I'd open it up for any comments from the public, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if anybody from the public will enter into a temporary recess of the meeting here and open up the public hearing. Anybody from the public wants to address the Highway 212 water main public project, now is the time.
We did receive an objection to the assessment prior to the meeting in writing. So
Okay.
we do have one objection.
you go ahead and communicate that with us?
Sure. Mr. Wayne Vogt, if I'm saying that correctly, he came in to object to his assessment. He's the owner of Rainbow Park Lot 1, Block 1. It's the first one on the draft. He's objecting to the assessment because there's no benefit from the improvement that can be attributed to the lot due to the shape and setbacks for building, from the setbacks that he's been given from the city and from the county. There's really no structure that can be built on the lot without a variance. So he's saying that there's no benefit from the improved water main.
I should note that that is the property that is deferred. The assessment is deferred until connection is made.
So unless somebody does try and develop that lot, there will be no assessment.
That's correct.
Leverage.
That's
And,
correct.
and he understands that, and he still objects to it because whenever if he tries to sell the property, there is still this assessment hanging over it. And by his calculations, he included a map. There's very little developmental land with all of the required setbacks currently by the city and county. So he's saying you can't even develop it without a number of different variances. And so he's objecting to the assessment.
So his interpretation is that it's more valuable to him to try and, I guess. I'm not gonna
Well,
try
and the estimated market value he's provided me was $5,800 of the entire piece of land. And the assessment, if he were to connect to water, is 13,000.
Right.
So that's over double what he's saying the county assesses his land.
So would that make future development basically impossible at that point?
But I didn't review the letter, but from my understanding, you'd need a variance in order to build something. And I guess it's up to the city council this evening. They can simply accept the objection. And then at that point in time, it would be up to Mr. Voigt to file in district court within the next 30 days to proceed with the objection process. Then it becomes a legal process.
Mr.
quite
Mr.
honest.
Mayor,
So
Council,
that would
may
be the
I,
next step. That would be up to Mr. Voigt to follow up with that.
So would.
Can
would a
you hear
future
me?
owner
Can
of that
anybody hear me?
property be disallowed to hook to the utility then?
I think that would be a decision that the city would have to make at that point in time. If you'd want to charge some type of access charge to connect to the water service that's there.
Then on top of that, they'd also get the assessment at that point.
They would, yes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, can
And
anyone
we
hear
cannot
me?
hear you if you're trying to chime in. Tim is virtually here.
Yeah, I'd be interested in what the legal aspect of this is, and what are our choices here?
Let's see if we can unmute Pam.
Can anyone hear me?
We need to exit out of the presentation for her
can
to
do that.
speak.
No, we shouldn't have to.
You want me to disconnect my presentation?
Let's try that.
How about now? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Is it a correct assumption that it would devalue the land further if it was?
I mean, that you could say it of any special assessment.
Pam, can you try again?
Okay, I'm trying.
Perfect. We hear you.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
So thanks for figuring that out. So, Mr. Mayor, Council, under 429 061 as sets forth the assessment procedure in state statute. And so you have in front of you a roll that has been presented to you based on the assessment policy. That has a presumption that there is, so for an assessment to be valid, there has to be special benefit to the property that exceeds the actual cost, which is what this property owner on his written objection has stated that he doesn't have that belief. Once that objection has been made, then that burden shifts where it needs to be proven that that assessment does not exceed the benefit or that the assessment is more than the benefit to the property. So what council can do tonight with this challenge in front of them is you can receive that objection, it sits there, you can adopt the role as presented. And then there's that appeal process for that property owner, which then would flip that burden. We would have to at some point get some type of appraisal to prove that special benefit to the property. The other thing you can do is you can amend you can make a motion to adopt the assessment role with the amendment of taking out that piece of property and then set at this time a date certain for review of just that particular property. And then we can do that benefit analysis then at that time in preparation for that.
You guys want to just adopt the role as is and circle back on the vote property?
I do.
So then you would amend the role. Is that correct, Pam?
Right, so you amend the role to take out that particular property and then have the adoption of the role minus that property. And then also in your motion, you would set the date certain for consideration of that particular property. And I do think that that's a wise choice, because then that gives you the opportunity to be able to really evaluate, especially with what I'm hearing with respect to what seems to be an argument of an variance needed to be able to develop, and that assessment sitting out there on that property. So
how much time do we need to look into this?
Or what?
For an appraisal? I mean,
The appraisals, I guess you could ask Kendra, I believe it's probably out a month to get someone to appraise something.
I know for a separate project, it won't be done until the end of January. I would imagine it would be a similar time frame with the same appraiser.
Is there any reason why we just can't use the auditor treasurer market value? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it comes
it's
from.
there. They do it every year.
So if the council believes that the actual benefit to the property exceeds the assessment, you can go ahead and adopt the role as is, knowing that this individual could have the opportunity to appeal that particular property on the roll to district court.
Can we even grant a variance that would make the property more valuable, so that would be more buildable?
I mean, I believe variances are granted by the planning commission. So while I cannot guarantee any type variance, if they present a strong case,
It's possible.
it's possible.
Yes, so variances have a
Yeah,
very
right. They don't
specific
have-
legal standard as far as there needs to be a practical difficulties test proven. So it's really going to depend on what's proposed for the variance. So it's hard to predict right at this moment.
But the county says the value is how much?
The property tax statement, estimated market value, $5,800.
But that's without the improvement on it, right?
Correct.
Right, so what the council would benefit from, and what's the assessment on it?
13,610.
Yeah, so the council would have that opportunity if you pulled it out to have an analysis done of with the benefit, how that if that increases that benefit to that property from that $5,000 value.
So if Mr. Vote appeals, then is the burden's on him to go through the legal process to prove that?
Yes.
And so if we just adopt this like this, and then he goes ahead and does that appeal,
Well,
then what?
so, right, so he pays for the appeal, he will say that the benefit does not exceed the assessment, and then it shifts to us in district court to prove that it does.
So then we're paying for the appraisal and everything else.
Correct.
So can he come after for attorney's fees to the city? Or that is just out of his end?
I actually would have to take a look at the statute as far as whether attorney's fees are included in recovery for those types of actions.
I'm hearing $13,000 pretty quick here.
Yeah, well, we already said he didn't have to pay until the property was sold, so now it's like coming back again.
No, but he's-
The property sold.
Correct.
You
Right.
can sell it and it can still stay deferred if nobody ever hooks it.
Oh,
That is correct.
Yes, but the moment that someone wants to hook it to the utilities. then
That's when they would have to pay.
And that's when the benefit would be. Whether or not he owns it and doesn't develop it, if somebody else develops it, they get that realized value out of it. So that's the argument of assessing it.
Hmm.
Is that he, essentially, he could sell it to someone, and they would get free water.
Would you like staff to do the study to get an appraisal and see?
You're gonna work on it.
It was not. It was a discussion with city staff at the time, and the contractor was there with the equipment to install a water service. And felt like there was a value that could be realized for that vacant piece of property. So the way the city policy reads is if there is a service line extended to the parcel, then that parcel not only pays for the service line, but they also pay for the water main assessment of $34 per foot. So if let's just rewind the tape, and if water service had not been extended to this parcel, then the assessment would be zero. Because the main line is not assessed. What triggers the main line assessment is if a service line is attached, because then there's a benefit to having a main there because you're drawing water from the main line.
so had there not been a water hookup to that property, would the assessments be a little bigger for all the others properties?
No, they
No.
wouldn't have been.
No,
So
okay.
they would have just been $13,000 less.
We're happy to, as staff, take it, reassess it, have more information, and then bring it back.
Yeah, I think more information is,
But what needs to be done right now, Pam?
So a motion should be made to adopt the assessment roll minus that particular parcel, and the council will consider the assessment for that particular parcel and then I would put the next, if staff feels like it can be done by the next meeting, or if it can't be done by the next meeting, then 2 meetings out, and just say that date certain.
That's January 16th.
It didn't sound
And
like you could
that
get-
didn't sound like we could get an appraisal that fast. Could we push it to February, Pam?
You can push it to as far out as you want, as long as it's reasonable and there's a date certain so that the property owner will know when that date is.
So,
Six.
February, is it the 6th or the 5th?
It would be the 5th that's a 2023 calendar. Sorry, we're still replacing it. February 25th, but if a appraisal is a month out, I would say February 20th to give us some wiggle room. That's a Tuesday, but the 19th is a federal holiday.
At 5:30.
Call for a motion to approve the assessment roll minus parcel number 35-05-400-00. That parcel will be further examined for consideration on assessment, and findings will be delivered to the council by staff on February 20.
so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Patterness to approve the roll minus parcel 35-05-400-00. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being patient through our work.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a first reading of ordinance 2024-01 of the fine and fee schedule.
This is our updated fine and fee schedule for the new year.
These all of our most recent findings regarding utility.
Clip notes and exciting changes.
Most of them, we have new fees for water tower attachments, and our pole attachment rentals are
Right.
included
Basically,
in the fine and fee schedule. And then we've had departments reviewing them to make sure that the fine and fees accurately capture their costs. I don't think there were anything else major, Jasmine. Okay.
Yeah, last year we made a bunch of adjustments to it as well, I recall.
yeah,
But it was like in red crossed off, and so that when I looked at it, it's already adjusted then? That's like the adjusted,
Yes.
okay.
What's in your packet is what we're proposing for 2024.
If we do that again, is it possible to leave on what it was, or,
Track changes?
yeah,
Certainly.
just so we can see?
Yeah, that is a best practice, so.
We are happy to implement that best practice for 2025.
okay, moving on to item D, resolution 123. It's an approval of the final 2024 property tax levy. Had some workshops and had a presentation a couple weeks ago with Sean, telling us how the levy needs to be adjusted in order to meet operating budgets. And now's the time to approve the tax levy.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second,
Motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Baumgartner to approve the tax levy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Property tax levy has been approved. Moving down to resolution 2023-124, the adoption of the operating budget for 2024. Any discussion there? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve.
so moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Paternoss to approve the 2024 operating budget. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Jasmine and Elizabeth have been hard at work updating the personnel policy. Can we get an update on that situation?
Yes, so really majority of credit here goes to Jasmine, who took it upon herself to update and bring our 90-page 2005 policy that I had to sign up to date. And she brought it down to less than 65 pages, which is
Wow.
quite impressive and makes it ever slightly more consumable. So the one-page memo that was included in the packet to kind of provide an overview of what was changed about the policy. Cannabis was added to the smoking section of citywide work rules and code of conduct. Smoking of any kind, which now includes cannabis, is prohibited for employees while on duty. Another thing that we wanted to capture here, so in the past, uncaptured in the personnel policy was the public works on call. Employees of the Public Works Department had the potential to be placed on call for the purposes of snow removal from the months of November through March. Previously, this was $75. We increased it to $200 because for all other staff that are on call, they receive an hour of their regular pay for a Monday through Friday when they are on call, and they receive 2 hours of pay when they are on call for a weekend. Obviously, you can't only have one public works employee plowing snow. And they are essentially on call for all of November through March because we don't know what the weather is going to bring. So they are severely limited in what type of travel they can do, where they celebrate holidays and things like that, always making sure that they are close by in order to provide that snow service if needed. And so to compensate them for kind of putting their lives on hold for those 5 months, that is where the stipend was increased from 75 to 200. We also have in here holidays. The updated policy includes Juneteenth, and then this year, city staff, council had recognized Christmas Eve as a paid holiday. That was added into the policy. I'm certain that I'm gonna keep talking about the highlights, and I know that there will be discussion. We've also included earned sick and safe time because of Minnesota statutes. And we've added language that was suggested by the League of Minnesota Cities to reflect the new law. Vacation accrual and max accrual, we did kind of a best practices survey of what other municipalities are giving employees for vacation time for their annual leave. So a minor adjustment was made just for our employees for the first 5 years, 0 to 5 years, so that they could accrue up to 12 days as opposed to 10. And then we also added funeral leave. Employees will be permitted to use up to 4 consecutive working days with pay as funeral leave for the death of an immediate family member. So, discussion.
Still objecting New Year's Eve being included as a holiday, or Christmas Eve, sorry. And New Year's Eve too, who would have done that, but.
Elizabeth, did you mention earned safe and sick leave?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We added that language suggested by the League of Minnesota Cities, but that is included in the updated personnel policy.
And was that precipitated from the legislation this year?
Yes, yep.
So yeah, in my mind, if we're adding vacation accrual, getting rid of the Christmas Eve holiday should be a pretty fair trade and all that. Our goal is to serve the public. I feel like we should be open when, I mean, if banks are open, we could be open here.
That's fair. Renville County kind of does a compromise in that they give employees a half day for Christmas Eve when Christmas Eve falls on a Monday through Thursday.
And so my problem with this one is with how we have it written is if Christmas falls over a weekend, you would have you'd have a 4-day weekend through all of that. And it creates a really weird.
Because if Christmas Eve falls on a Friday, then
What if
the Friday is that federal holiday, right?
Christmas is Sunday?
Yeah.
Then you'd have a 4-day weekend on that because it'd be observed on Friday and observed on Monday.
Oh. Okay.
And
This doesn't say Christmas Eve would ever be observed, like the half day only applies if Christmas Eve is on a Monday through a Thursday. So if Christmas Eve is on a, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that doesn't play into it.
what days are being taken off today or this year for the holiday?
The 25th and the 26th.
The 25th is Sunday.
The 25th is a Monday.
Oh.
And then it was determined in one of the first resolutions that passed that the Christmas Eve holiday was observed on December 26th.
So to my mind, that's being a little overly generous.
So you picked up Juneteenth this year for a holiday?
The federal requirement was Juneteenth.
Yeah.
My interview was originally scheduled on that day.
That's right.
And it couldn't be.
And it was adopted by the state. It's an official holiday.
Like that one's not optional.
Correct.
Yeah, so you're proposing dialing back one vacation day,
One holiday
one holiday.
Well,
while giving extra leave in other areas. As I see it.
is what I think, what you're saying is then they can use that leave for Christmas Eve.
You'd be able to do it. There's just an expectation. There's probably one person here to answer the door and the phone.
Would that,
Well, and the other option is giving it off is also at the kind of how the county does it is it's at the option of the council on those years when if Christmas is on a Tuesday, for instance, no one wants to come in on a Monday for half a day or something like that.
That is a possibility that, at the beginning of every year, as I understand it, haven't been here at the beginning of the year, but council does pass the holidays for that year. So there is flexibility that if Christmas was on a Tuesday and Christmas Eve was on a Monday, there could be additional council discussion on whether they would like to grant that day that year for staff.
And that seems to make a little more sense to me than just giving it out off all the time. I feel
What if it was off if Christmas Eve is on Monday through Thursday. But not an additional day like they're getting this year if it's
I know what I'm
Friday, Saturday,
proposing.
Sunday.
Kind of what I'm proposing, but it'd be up to all the councils to make that decision, not tying their hands with our personnel policy.
I'm okay with that.
That's fair. We can definitely make that switch, so it's not a stated day in the personnel policy, but it can be reviewed yearly at city council meetings during the annual resolution.
It's a good call.
Excellent suggestion.
Does that conclude the updates on the personnel?
That includes kind of my high level updates on the major changes to personnel. I don't know if anybody else had any other points of discussion.
It's really exciting reading.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Jasmine made it very entertaining to read.
That was a large packet this week.
It was a large packet. I'm just
Okay.
gonna say point of order. Point of order. Thank you. We can hear you all up here. Thanks. Yeah, if you would motion to adopt the personnel policy with the
Well-
removing of Christmas Eve.
Call for a motion to adopt the personnel policy with the removal of Christmas Eve as a paid holiday.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Paterno, seconded by Baumgartner to approve the adjusted personnel policy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Updated personnel policy. Electrical fund.
Electrical fund. Woo. Get
Electrical
out my
fund.
slides. Electrical fund. I missed that pun.
We've had some conversation in the past weeks about the electrical fund and kind of what it means for our budget. And there was a lot of questions kind of hanging out there and we have a really nice presentation.
I'm here to try to answer them all.
Troy?
So I have 3+ pages of notes from Troy. So, yeah, we wanted to kind of give you, there were a lot of questions about the electrical fund. So we wanted to kind of provide this overview. So in the first slide, you'll see kind of just a historical trend of our electric fund cash balance and where it's been going since 2006, which is not really the direction we want it to be going. But we're doing, I think, good things now to help get it back up in the right direction. So the revenue requirements for the electrical fund, what you want is you want your operating expense plus your return requirements. So that just ensures kind of the financial viability of your utility. So your rates that we set have to generate the revenue to meet our operating expenses and all of these things like our interest expense, capital expenditures, transfers, bond covenants, and other types of activity you want to see out of your electrical fund for improvements and things like that. So for the specific return requirements, this was actually discussed at a PUC in 2013. They decided to use what they call the cash reserve method. So it's you can read a measure of the utility's ability to contribute to a cash reserve after your asset additions and operating expenses. So the PUC's recommendation in 2013 was that the utility should have in reserve 6 months of operating expenses, and it should strive to have kind of your cash reserve equal to 15% of the cost to rebuild the system. Their thinking was that in the case of a natural disaster, that when the system needed to be rebuilt, FEMA would come up with the other 85% of the cost through grants. So we would be on the hook for about 15%. In 2013, what that looked like, the reserve level should be enough to replace one substation, which was estimated to be about 1.5 million, and then 500,000 in investment for repairs and equipment to get power. This simply keeps the lights on. And in 2013, the cost to replace all the lines and transformers was 4.5 million. So anything over that 2 million amount, plus revenue from rates each year would help go to projects to begin replacing all of our overhead line with underground cable. So fast forward to this year in 2023, after our discussions with Doug Jones of Power System Engineering's, if we are still using the 2013 model, which is to replace one substation, a substation now costs around $3 million. And then the 500,000, I added a plus there because as you'll see in future slides, our costs have only gone up for equipment. So once again, financing beyond this level would come from FEMA, low interest bonding. Our big ticket item is our transformers in a substation. And that's not something that we would be immediately able to get. So then our costs also would be renting a mobile substation, run that for however many days that were needed to provide the electrical coverage. What's a good news about this is about 60% of our electrical system is now buried. So a lot of that 500,000 that was used in 2013 was to replace a lot of overhead lines and poles. And as we continue burying our electrical throughout the city, that puts us in a really good spot for catastrophic emergencies because we won't have as many overhead lines and poles to replace. We also have estimated our monthly operating expenses is about $245,000. Over 100,000 of that is simply the cost of buying power, buying electrical. So kind of other options. So if we didn't want to have a cash refund on hand, we could, you know, work through insurance with the League of Minnesota Cities. Our premiums would probably go up. Our substations are insured by the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance, but that's only that part of the system. The rest of the system is not. We'd have to dig into, and I haven't been able to do this yet, if the insurance also covers our restoration fees, the mobile substations, as well as how quickly that financing also comes through. We have to determine that in the event of emergency, if we wanted to, you know, keep that cash reserve on hand, if we wanted it to be lower, how fast could we get emergency financing? How fast could we get what is needed? Because while we may get grants in the future, if a mobile substation needs to be paid now, how would we be able to get those types of funds? We could certainly use cash on hand that the city has, but then, you know, you want to maintain, if an emergency, chances are electrical is not the only thing that's been impacted in an emergency. So making sure you have costs.
So the substations are covered by the League of Minnesota Insurance?
Yes, the 3 million.
No cost?
We'd have to look at what amount of that in our premium covers the substation.
Oh, it's rolled into a larger program?
Yeah, a larger insurance program. So, as is probably no surprise to anybody in the room, our cost increases have just gone through the roof through the years. So every part of the operation has increased. So their factory label, metal prices, availability, rubber items, plastic. So what used to be in stock are now months or even years out, which means in order to plan ahead, we've had to inventory more material to make sure that we have it, but we're not the only people who are doing this. So if you remember in the pandemic, everybody rushed to buy toilet paper because they didn't want to be out of toilet paper and the cost of toilet paper went up. So it's very similar to that in the sense that everybody's trying to make sure their inventory is solid and that's driving up the price. And that increases demand. So you can also see as we move on, we've looked back at some of our material costs in the past years. You can see what we've paid for different material. This is just kind of a snapshot. Obviously, we have more than these 7 items in our inventory, but this helps demonstrate the different price increases. And on the next slide, if you're visual like I am, you can see that it's just an upward line trajectory of all of our costs to maintain the system and what we would want to have in reserve to replace anything in the event of an emergency. Also transformers. So we have single phase transformers and rebuilt. So due to these price increases, we've actually been sending in our overhead transformers that we've taken down and have them made into ground mount transformers for $1,795 each. So I will say, you know, our electric team has done a really great job trying to balance, you know, customer service as well as smart savings. This is something we wouldn't have done in the past, but because of increasing costs, they've had to get creative. And a lot of utilities are now doing the same thing. We don't do that for 3-phase transformers, even though the prices have doubled or tripled. We just don't purchase enough of them to do that rebuild. And we buy new because of the warranty and efficiency of the new units. So in the case of an emergency, the city would want to have funds on hand to cover any needed materials as well as labor costs, right? So materials is just one part of the pie. You need to actually also have money set aside to cover the labor. So truck time, and we might be competing with other municipalities who are impacted. Your biggest ticket items are those transformers. There's about 1 per block. and a residential one is around 5,000 and one per business. And those transformers for businesses can start around 35,000. So it's a lot. And again, FEMA being part of the federal government for many years, I can tell you the federal government's just not always quick. The other things I wanted to look at is other municipal electric rates, to see if we were in line with other people, other folks in the area. So here's just a snapshot of some of the other municipalities who have electric rates like we do. You can see while we're not the highest, we're also not the lowest. So I would like to say that we're comfortably in the middle ballpark area of electric rates for other communities. And you can see that kind of demonstrated on the next slide as well. Olivia is always the bottom lightest green bar. So again, you can see we're not the lowest, we're not the highest, but we are in the middle range of
Can you go back
everyone
one
else.
slide?
Olivia is your first column, and then everything else is all of our other municipalities. And these are 2023 municipal electric rates. I pulled these off of their own resolutions, their own websites. I wasn't able to compile enough information for 2024.
Benson's cheap in the.
It's one of the lower ones, yes. But Lake Crystal.
Yeah.
Lake Crystal is awfully high.
Don't go making them mad now.
Hopefully they're not watching. Are you okay moving forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So this graph was also shown at the PUC to kind of give you an idea of the Olivia electric rates. It was compiled by Jason Murray, who's our financial advisor with DDA. And his projection here assumes a 6% rate increase for 2023, a 5% rate increase from 2024 to 2026, and a 3% increase in 2027. So the biggest reason I can find for the dip of the curve at the electric fund reserves is to accommodate for the potential funding of a new electric shop. So that's what I can attribute kind of the dip to. But this kind of the red shows you your projected increase, and then green shows you your current level if you just keep the rates the same. To give you an idea, current rates are set to allow about $265,000 to be spent on projects on the electrical system every year. I also gave you some average household monthly electric bill data, just so you can see kind of where we're at different usage periods. So obviously July through August, higher usage, air conditioning, myself included, because I moved here in August. And then December covers the October through November, a little bit milder, not as much electrical usage. But the bottom line, which nobody's gonna like to hear, we're never gonna be able to lower our utility rates since the costs of operating electric don't go down. They're never gonna go down. Once we hit a comfortable amount of reserves, we should be able to increase the rates by less. So we're right now discussing with some electrical engineers about a construction work plan, but we can also speak with like Jason Murray's projection indicates only a 3% rate increase in 2027. So again, unfortunately, we're never going to be able to lower those utility rates unless if we want to change our saving structure phenomenally. But once we build up that reserve, we can raise rates by less. And I will attempt to answer any additional questions you all have. I've learned a lot about this topic in the past 2 weeks, but I am by no means the expert. So if I don't know it, I'm happy to reach out again to continue working with our electrical team and our electrical engineers to provide you with any additional information.
Well, that was very helpful.
Is that a good?
Yeah.
You requested it, so I wanted to make sure. Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Part of the agenda.
It's part of the agenda. I did
know,
add a
but, like,
2023
by itself.
side, but I can share it so people don't have to walk through 222 pages.
What happens? Expenses or the transfers interdepartmentally? That as well, or pass with that?
So the transfers right now, what we're looking at, I do understand in the past how the electric fund has been transferred to other departments to cover that type of thing. That's not there are still some electrical transfers, but we're not looking to deplete the electrical reserve. We're now in the process of building up the electrical reserve. So we are establishing better best practices for ourselves. It was discussed in our August budget meeting. We can't just go from, 50% to 0% to cover that. So we are generally phasing out the transfers from the electrical fund. So that is something that we are working towards.
We're generally trying to keep all the enterprise funds sort of
Yep.
their own and less sharing between.
The electric fund the electric fund, the water fund, the wastewater fund, they're all separate funds.
And then, it occurs to me too, that money is sitting there, when we build up the funds or all those, and are those funds invested in something earning interest now?
So about 50% of our funds total throughout the city are invested in CDs that are earning a little over 5%. I can't speak to every single dollar in the cash balance fund, but in general, about 50% of our cash on hand is in CDs. We've had to carry a little bit higher in our checking account because of our Depew Avenue payments recently, but that is the practice, is to put those in CDs. The one caveat being, in the event of an emergency, right, then you'd have to pull money out of a CD to access it in the event of a catastrophic emergency.
Right, we can put it in money markets though and not CDs and be more liquid.
And yeah, we can
I
definitely.
guess it just, if we have extra cash that you don't need for your regular business, that should all be invested.
And it is, but I do agree with you that in my opinion, CPs might not be about both either. Like so both practice and factor.
Okay.
So that's been continued for the last year, but as those CDs start to mature, I will probably.
Yeah, get more liquid.
Because I do agree with this. I'd rather have it. With that. Let's have access to it, not be restricted for a term of the CD.
And then long term, you think about these reserves. So if we're gonna have $3 million there, and say we get lucky enough and you still generate 3, 4, 5% interest by holding that cash, we can start to designate where that money will go because you don't need any more in that fund.
Right.
So what else do we pay down debt faster? I mean, that would be something I'd like to look at.
We'll always need the return on the invested money because inflation, the cost of providing electricity goes up every year. And so
Well-
our replacement costs will go up every year.
There's
In
caveats
theory.
to that with the undergrounding, they have less risk. And so we might be able to get away with less risk.
That would be the
even
one-
with inflation.
I think that'd be the one thing to talk about is maybe not needing 15% to rebuild the entire shooting match, because if we have a lot of the grid buried.
Yep.
I think that's the one talking point we possibly have is what if we set policy to what we think the reserve should be.
And this is something, in the presentation we learned, PUC looked at this issue in 2013. I think since it's been 10 years, it's definitely something that PUC could re-examine to determine if that method, if those numbers still make sense.
Yeah, like if you could bump that down to 10%, if that's reasonable for self-insurance reasons, then you'd
Yeah, well, the
bring our goal a lot closer.
15% of cost is still the right number. It's just the cost to
What the
replace might
cost
be
is,
going down
yeah.
because there's mostly 60% of it's underground.
So.
Cause the 85 will still be covered by FEMA.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
We
right,
still
but
need 15, but do we need 15 from 4 million or do we need
But
15
it's
by?
15% of what
3.5?
number?
it's 15% of what number is what I'm saying, not that you're looking.
Right.
Yeah.
We're on the same page, I think.
Yeah, and you can possibly, like you said, cut out your underground wires.
Yeah.
Partially at least, or discount them some way.
Good discussion.
Great discussion.
Any other discussion on the electrical fund presentation?
I will send this around to you all, so please feel free to share it.
What happened in 2016?
I wasn't here.
What?
Big old dip.
Oh,
Is that Fairview
that-
Place?
No.
So. I don't know.
That'd
So-
be interesting to find out. I don't think that it's really relevant as in the past, but
Everything tells a story.
it does tell a story.
Okay. Well, let's move down to some committee reports here. Let's talk pool.
They put water in pool, water leaks out of pool.
That's about it.
Turns out that pools are literally a hole in the ground you put money into. So they're working on kind of plugging all the leaks that have came up throughout this whole remodeling and fire process, and they're still, the goal is still to get it open as soon as they can, and I think he's trying to get a lifeguard class scheduled, but every time they go up a water level, they find another leak.
All right, moving to some more positive discussion here. The EDA met and there's some income that came from property sale recently. And we're looking at bolstering up some of our small business loans again. From the EDA side of things, I think that probably covers everything we can share, huh?
They approved the transfer of the parcel and a public hearing has been set.
That's right.
So.
PUC.
Yeah, so we met and primarily we discussed the water tower attachment agreement, and that was in the consent agenda today. Essentially, we just defined, you know, how we're gonna rent out the space up there, so it's on paper and everybody knows what it is. It's more or less like the pole attach agreement. It was standard language for renting the space on top of the water tower, so. And we worked with the entity that owns that equipment and they were all, you know, fine with it. And so I don't expect it to be any event at all.
Very good. Any other reports from the council? Any reports from staff?
Yeah, 611 East Lincoln, the asbestos report came back. There's no asbestos, so we can move forward with using the property as a training exercise for the fire department. And the accessory building on that lot is being actively sold. So all good progress.
Across from the elevator. Okay.
And I think those are the main reports.
Any other staff?
No,
Okay.
no reports for the good of the whole.
Okay, any other notices and communications? You know, there's a community-wide Christmas decorating contest going on. So I would encourage our neighbors out there in town to consider registering for that. I see a lot of really good electric customers out there this time of year. We appreciate that. It's really nice going through town, actually. The town has done a really good job.
It does look nice. And I'd like to add too, like the holiday happenings, what a good turnout that was. That was pretty fun to see all those kids out there.
Yeah, a special thanks to the chamber and thank you to city staff for participating at such a high level as well. Any other business?
We're moving into a closed session.
Very good.
Yeah, do you want
Call
to
for
make a motion?
to move into a closed session in accordance to Minnesota statute 13.05 B. Subdivision 3C1, discussion regarding appraisals and asking prices for, I'll just give the description. You can sign that. That's fine.
Right there.
Discussion regarding appraisals and asking prices for possible sale of real property, property ID numbers 35-00571-00
Make it look like I wrote it.
and 35-00580-00. Anybody from council?
You need a new pen?
And we have some students here who are getting their attendance marked off for their social studies class. You just bear with us.
That's great. I love it.
Have a good evening. You guys picked one of our longer ones this year.
Yeah.
One for them. Okay, so there's got a
I
motion.
think we have to, oh, sorry, go for it.
You got a motion called for a closed session in accordance with Minnesota State. I'm calling for a motion, I'm sorry, to enter into closed session in accordance with Minnesota State Statute 13.05D subdivision 3C1 regarding appraisals and asking prices for possible sale of real property. ID number 35-00571-00 and 35-00580-00.
Removed.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Ferguson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, we'll bring it out of closed session.
Motion?
Like, I move to close, end closed session and reopen the regular meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made by Paterno, seconded by Blanca to terminate the closed session, open regular meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we're
Whoop,
back in.
Give Jasmine a moment. Oh, you're good. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we,
To adjourn.
He's gotta read the
I'll-
thingy now.
I'll just recap here. We're coming out of closed session in accordance with Minnesota State Statute 13.05 subdivision 3C1. Discussion regarding appraisals and asking prices for possible sale of property numbers 35-00571-00 and 35-00580-00. Council and staff had a conversation about these properties, and staff will be moving forward with conversations with the property owners. All right, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Paterno to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you guys for your marathon efforts today.
Good night.